Legal advisory. Thank you for explaining that.
And Vice Mayor, if I may, I believe the stream was disrupted during my report. I'll make the report available online. I'm not going to re-deliver it for safety. But the text will be made available. If anybody is interested, it will be on Facebook. Well, I don't know. Thank you.
Okay. So there was a zoning meeting to approve the new zoning code. Hopefully, that review will be complete by the next year. The goal is to have some public meetings as well as some additional committee meetings. We had various special meetings regarding the square and the open. Hopefully move forward with these exciting plans. We had the naming of the gazebo for Mayor Susan Infeld. I want to thank Councilwoman Weiser and Mrs. Canning Rawlinson for their ideas and presentation. As the mayor said, the RFQ committee for the owners rep met multiple times. The lay leader of this committee, I feel, could be probably a citizen of the year. That's how we have invested personally. I'm going to be recommending it. Council members are part of the 11th District Labor Day Parade again. This is important to get back to our community in general. There was a space created for the University Square project, as the mayor mentioned once before. And one thing, just based on what the mayor said, that I think I would like to suggest is that since so many different types of ordinances and policies seems to be coming from the sustainability committee, I think it should probably be a formal committee, possibly Mr. King's committee, because it does have a community aspect in it. And I just think that it would streamline a lot of the processes, so that council will be aware of some of the things, and when they come to council, they don't have to be referred back to something. So that is something that I urge the mayor to do, and I think it's enjoy that as well. With the plenary report, anything else from any other council members? Okay, we are now up to reports and communications from the directors, the Department of Finance. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. Just to let council know, all the special assessments that were approved at the last meeting under emergency, those have been filed with Cuyahoga County. So I'm waiting for confirmation of those to be posted to their system, and those will go into effect for next year, starting January 1st. There's an item on tonight's agenda, which is the certification of tax rates. That relates to the tax rates in the millage approved by council during the tax budget. That was done in late June and filed with the county beginning of July. So that's a formality. It's a statutory requirement. So that'll be on the agenda under emergency this evening. And look forward to answering any questions about that.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Are there any questions for the finance director? I actually had one question. I'm not sure if it's for the finance director or the mayor, but was since all the appropriations were approved and the veto was overturned at the last meeting, was the invoice for Mr. Gibbons paid yet?
It has not been paid yet.
And I assume that it will be reviewed and paid this weekend?
It'll be reviewed, and I can't say that it's this week, but it'll be reviewed and paid in short order.
In full?
I don't know about that yet. There are issues with the bill that Mr. Kennedy and I identified, and I think that some of that should be discussed with our former counsel with the CIC. But we will take that up.
Yeah, curious. Are there any other questions? For the
Well,
finance
last I realized that disappointment. We're supposed to be responsible stewards of public resources, and I think there are some things on this bill that are questioned. They shouldn't just be paid without review.
We've had ample time to review it. We did all of the work, and so there's this firm and there's a change, and because of your lack of forthrightness and willingness a professional service quit. So this
Quit
needs
because
to be, this needs to be.
Thank you.
That's not.
He quit because apparently I couldn't fire him and he had decency.
we lost an extremely diligent and excellent love.
He wasn't a model.
This is. Okay, Mr. Running, Department of Law, is there anything? Anything to report? Thank you. Public Safety, Chief Rogers. Thank you, and I don't think Chief Purple is here, so I'm going to report from fire.
There's no report. Chief Burkowski back in the office.
Mr. Pennington, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just to echo what the Mayor Brennan said, the carts were delivered today to our jogging parking lot. We're using it as our staging area for the upcoming distribution carts, which will begin tomorrow for residents. I do want to thank publicly Deanna Bremer Fisher and a number of volunteers who helped dump 1,840 envelopes for the information now that we were putting out with the cards that will be delivered to each resident who is getting the card this round. We do have a waiting list now for our second round already, and we're working towards formulating when we'll place the next order for cards to fulfill those. So those are my.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pennington? Okay, Bill.
Vice Mayor, no report.
Okay, thank you. Housing and Community Development. No report. Thank you. City Engineer.
So I just wanted to do a couple updates on the season parking program. We're gonna do a little bit of extra work at Walter Simpson Park and on South Taylor. The budget, we have budget, we're under, so this isn't, we're still going to be under. So I'm just waiting for a date when Cat Flowers will be back out to do that work. Curtis Park, the tennis courts, we're just waiting on the asphalt here. The contractor will be installing the posts for the nets. And then once that's done, they'll be back out to repair some sidewalk that was broken at the park. And then probably the beginning of October, they'll be out to do the surface coating on the tennis and pickleball courts. We had a pre-construction meeting today on the streets program with Geauga Highway Company, and they're going to start that program in about 2 weeks. And then the Silsbee water main replacement project is out to bid, and the bids will open on September 27th.
Thank you so much. Ready, Good Engineer. And then Mr. Cook is not here. Mayor, do you have anything?
Nothing additional to what I delivered in my report. Thank you.
And Economic Development? Okay, thank you. We are now up to the agenda. Letter A is motion to approve the recommendation from Planning Commission regarding the application from Burns, Bachner, and Greenberger LLC for CS Center LLC and CS Center TIC LLC to demolish building located at 21841 Placenta Road, move off to market and create surface parking. Anyone here for that?
Thank you. Gordon Burns on behalf of the owners and managers of Cedar Center South. By way of background, this is
Could you use your microphone? Please?
can you hear me? Working. Thank you. By way of background, this is admittedly a somewhat unusual circumstance that a property owner of commercial property finds itself in. We are proposing to amend the site plan for Cedar Center South to demolish an existing building that was once, income producing. We're proposing that really for two reasons, just by way of that. Number one is, I'm sure all of you know, the building that I'm referencing is the former Boston Market building. Is a very old building. It was occupied by Boston Market for 20 years plus. It would need to be substantially updated in order to attract a good credit tenant that the owner of the shopping center could be confident would be a long-term tenant. And frankly, even then, it's unlikely, given current market conditions, that such a tenant could be located. It is to be blunt, an outdated use of a property like that. As the city council knows from its own experience looking at proposed redevelopment of properties in the area. Restaurant uses today look for drive-throughs, look for large parking fields that serve the restaurants. Look for, frankly, all of the things that this site just does not offer. Very small field of parking serving this building, and a very outmoded building that, say, require substantial updating that the market just did not support. At the same time, the Cedar Center South most critical tenant, Whole Foods, is in dire need from their business perspective of additional surface parking that serves their customers at their front door, like most grocery stores in the area. It is keenly important to them that they have surface parking available that serves their store. There's obviously a parking field that serves the shopping center generally, but they don't feel that it adequately serves their needs and their customers. And so, by more coincidence than it may seem, we were presented with the opportunity to propose the redevelopment of this portion of Cedar Center South to serve Whole Foods needs and desires, so that they will stay on as a long-term tenant. And to be clear, the risk of their departure from the shopping center is very real from the property owner's perspective. So this is of dire importance in order to assure they're extending their tenancy at the property. So that's why we're here. Next question that you may have is, why this plan? And the answer there is that this is a plan for redevelopment that we worked for months on with input from your planning commission. To be candid, the original plan that we presented was quite different. It called for more parking. It called for less green space at street level. And your planning commission had concerns about that. Through a number of iterations of plans, we arrived at the plan that you have before you. We arrived at input regarding the green space that would serve as an amenity for the city, for the shopping center as a whole, and for Whole Foods to provide a seating area for anybody who wants to come by. It's open to the public, but especially for guests, customers of Whole Foods and other restaurants in the area who want someplace outside to sit down and enjoy their to-go meals. The pocket park, I will call it, has been dramatically expanded, as I said, from what was originally proposed, in order to serve that purpose. The parking area has been dramatically reduced. In addition, to address safety concerns and flow of traffic concerns at the planning commission's request, we have engaged the services of a local traffic engineer to study how the parking area functions, the entire Cedar Center South parking area functions. Make sure that we took advantage of this as an opportunity to both improve the way that it functions and to ensure that the parking we are proposing will function properly. And our parking engineer is here if you'd like to hear anything from him or have any questions. He would tell you, they went to some extraordinary measures for traffic engineers looking at parking like this. They actually flew a drone over the entire shopping center on a busy Saturday to see how traffic flowed throughout the entire shopping center, to make sure of how it flowed, to see where there were potential collisions, where there were potential for improving the flow of traffic, and designing the parking area that we are now proposing it building in a manner that addresses those concerns and mitigates those concerns to the maximum extent possible. At planning commission's request, the traffic engineer also looked at how to improve pedestrian flow in the existing parking area. And the traffic engineer determined that the best way to do that was with better, clearer markings for pedestrians, direct pedestrians towards Whole Foods and out of the way of traffic. And so you see that as part of this plan. And so it's with all of that input that we're here tonight seeking your approval of the plan that we propose. Happy to answer questions. With me tonight, just to be clear, are two others, Rick Zach, who is with the owner and management of the property, and Andrew Pearson, who, as I mentioned, is the traffic engineer that we engaged at the planning commission's request to provide input on how we're parking function and how we're making it.
Thank you. I'll start with a few questions. So right now, based on the plans, there are 16 additional parking spaces, correct? And what was the original plan that you did, do you remember? Do you recall?
It was over 25, if I'm not mistaken. And those parking spaces were inline parking spaces, vertical to the parking aisles rather than angled. They allowed, just to give you a little bit of history on how we got to where we are, they allowed cars to travel both north and southbound in the aisles, the parking aisles, rather than the one-way aisle that we have in the plan now. And again, there were concerns that were raised by the planning commission about how that would function, whether that would increase the likelihood of collisions with cars going both directions, whether one-way traffic, like what the plan shows now, would be a safer way to regulate traffic. And this is the product of that. So I don't know and the precise number, but it was significantly more parking.
And the second question, I just wanted to clarify. I personally was at the planning commission meetings and Mr. Rock was on plan. Can you just explain to the other council members who weren't there what steps we did? I mean, we did it kind of like in over, 360, but just a little more technical with safety for pedestrians and cars, because right now, they're going in this way, that way. I mean, it was a very kind of intricate discussion that you had, and you made significant changes in that. Can you kind of explain how you changed it, how it's going to look now? Because it is a little difficult to see on the plans.
Understood. Yeah, I'm gonna say technical, talk about traffic flow. That's my reason to follow up with that. So I'm gonna do.
Always happy to talk. My name is Andrew Pearson. I work for TMS Engineers. We're out in Twinsburg. I've been doing traffic related studies for about 25 years here in Northeast Ohio. For this study, we looked at the circulating flow of traffic, not only coming from the signal or the intersection with the signal into the site. We immediately have a stop sign. We are recommending removing that stop sign to allow traffic to flow through, and then there was some risk of pedestrian safety. Pedestrians currently don't have a very well marked crosswalk. There's a big concrete block and in the middle of the driveway. Moving that stop sign, having the crosswalk, we repave it mark, having signs alerting a motorist to pedestrians that are crossing. There was a 2 or 3 foot pavement marking that's shown that will direct traffic to this new crosswalk, trying to direct traffic to and from. With the new pavement marking sign, it's going to be very evident that is where the pedestrians go. And the motorists will know this is where I'm supposed to expect to see pedestrians. Flying the drone above, it's not currently happening. There are people walking here and there. You got carts dodging traffic in some cases. So we really want to try and prevent that. Most pedestrians cross the crosswalk, then they walk along this little edge area, and then they go to their car. And the benefit of having this new parking lot is vehicles won't use it. They will literally, pedestrians will come out, use the crosswalk, see their car, these 16 extra parking spaces will then be able to quickly access and then exit the site. We've got angle parking to help prevent traffic from, as they turn into the parking lot, taking a left at that first driveway. We don't want vehicles to queue trying to take a left and then somebody coming around the corner and quickly colliding with the back of this car. We prevent that by obviously signage and having angle parking. You look to your left and see angle parking and go, I can't turn down there because there's no way I can physically park. They're going to go to that next driveway, which gives an extra 200 or 300 feet, and then make their left and go to that first aisle that's south, which is the western new aisle. And then they'll obviously private parking space. If they see no parking, then they'll either take a right to go into the existing parking or make a little circulating to get to that other northbound only parking area. Once they leave, they will either go, obviously if they're on the western edge, they'll go south, either loop back around to the signal. We presume to take a left. It's very hard to take a left at the unsignalized intersection just south of the traffic light. And then if they want to take a right and go south on Warrensville, they'll probably do that. So it's fairly easy movement to go southbound. Northbound, obviously, I would assume they would use the signal. Their proposed configuration is a lot safer than the existing. I have a bunch of questions. Could we do this to the rest of the parking lot? I did present it to the planning that I believe that if this is a success, then maybe the rest will go to these new type of designs where you have traffic kind of dedicated to going a certain movement, and then pedestrians kind of interact with cars as little as possible. The whole design was, here's parking, you do what you want to do, and hopefully you get to the front door. So we've designed this to be a lot more effective in a new wave type of method. We've lost parking spaces, valuable parking spaces, but I believe this does help the safety of this configuration.
One thing, if I could just chime in terms of the design and what you're looking at, and maybe what you aren't looking at. One of the final suggestions that the planning commission had that made it into their recommendation is that for the parking that will be heading north, to add to the pavement there, a right turn arrow. Make clear that cars that are heading north up the aisle towards the Whole Foods should be turning to the right as opposed to trying to cut across traffic and turn to the left and go deeper into the shopping center. That does not appear in your drawing, but was part of the recommendation by the planning commission. I just want to be clear in terms of talking about how we got to there. The other thing that I'll say, because I think appearance is important, and I said this in front of the planning commission as well, is that we really do think that one of the things that accomplishes that's of value both to the shopping center and more generally to the city to make the shopping center enhance the shopping center is that as we all know, Cedar Center, since its redevelopment, has kind of two sides. May have even more than two sides, given the cut throughs and the retailers that appear on different portions of the building. And I think anybody who's familiar with it, is all, especially people who have been here for a long time. The back of the center, if you will, has always felt like the back of a building. Even though it's of critical importance to the shopping center, even though there are a number of businesses that have that as their front door. And we really do think that one of the benefits of this plan, the removal of the building, is it opens up the back of the shopping center. It will make it more inviting. Certainly the main entrance to Whole Foods, which has kind of been hidden from view if you're traveling north on Warrensville, until you get right to the traffic light. It enhances that, but it also enhances the entrance to the entire shopping center, which is going to make it more attractive, hopefully bring more customers for those businesses, make it a viable shopping center for the area. Just, this is a shopping center that has been part of the community for 70 years or so. It's seen a lot of change. If we were designing something from scratch, it probably wouldn't look like Cedar Center South does. So we're modifying it along the way to improve it, and we really do think improvement is that.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Planning also, and have the chance to study the plans. The best laid plans of Meisterman and traffic engineers. I can tell you, we have in this city, we decided we were going to put islands on Warrensville Center, and that way people could cross Warrensville Center easily. Nobody used them. Because where we put things, it's not where people want to cross. And I'm very familiar with that shopping center. I tend to approach it from the opposite side only because if you try to approach it from the Warrensville Center side, you're dealing with pedestrians that don't cross where it's marked. They cross all over the place. And to think if we paint nice lines and say, oh, go down here and then cross and then come in, human nature will be, no, I'm going to walk straight. So that's one. Number two, there are times when traffic going in and out of there, which may not have shown up on the road during the week, on Saturday. It can be dangerous just to go in and out because you're juggling with cars. And having cars pull in and turn out in that short, tight area, that's a very tight area, I think is problematic. I also think now that people can park there, because people were parking behind Boston Market and around the side of Boston Market because it was bigger and easier. They didn't walk over to the side and then over, they walked straight across. And I don't think you're going to be able to just say, oh, here, we have this nice signage, we want you to do it this way, and go do it, because it will be safer. I think actually you're opening yourself up to an area that probably will increase in accidents and increase also with a decrease in safety for the people that are going to shop foods. I'm not saying it's not a nice design, please. I'm not saying you worked hard to get it to this. But what I am saying is people are people. What we design, how we design it, you know as well as I do, that even architects with the greatest design in the world, once you open the building, everybody finds what you thought they wouldn't do. and they do it. The question is, if they do it, will they be safe doing it? And that's the one answer I don't think you can give them. Not with this. I think you worked hard. I think you believe it to be safe, but I don't think you can absolutely guarantee.
I'm gonna let the traffic engineer weigh in on what to say, but, we are all experienced jaywalkers. We are all experienced at cutting across parking lots in order to go into retailers. That's human, to your point, that's human nature, and there's only so much that can be done to mitigate that. And so in the face of that, here we are trying to do just that, trying to mitigate that, taking the best professionals that we can find, and taking into account the best advice they can provide in hopes of improving the situation. And to be clear, that I don't think I don't think that it is possible to eliminate the risk of a collision between cars or humans and cars in any parking lot. The question is, can we, in conjunction with this plan, reduce that risk? And that's, again, that was really the concern that the planning commission had. Whether we were doing that, that's what resulted in calling in a traffic engineer. We candidly did not utilize in our original design. But it's based on their best advice that we made the changes to the plan that we have trying to minimize that. So I think you're going to hear from Andrew that includes things like the removal of that stop sign that you mentioned earlier, that on one hand you think stop signs, that's a good thing. On the other hand, from a traffic engineer's perspective, you look at the distance between where a car is turning, where that stop sign is located, and whether there's adequate time for vehicles to respond to a car that's stopped, and all those sorts of things that frankly, lay people can't and maybe recognize a problem sometimes, but professionals study this stuff and really have the best information available to try and mitigate it. So I'll let Andrew speak more.
I do appreciate the question. There is no way to be 100% sure. I will not stand up here and say as a traffic engineer, we can 100%. What we do is follow guidance, follow standards. ODOT produces a lot of standards. It says, if you do this, it's safer than doing nothing. Or I don't want to put it on my professional liability and say that I'm doing something with no risk. The way I eliminate that is I do use manuals. We use manuals to try and derive where these signs need to be placed. What type of sign, what type of pavement marking is best in this situation. We did notice during the drone footage that there are times when cars wouldn't park behind. Time we did the drone footage, it was an empty bottom line. A lot of parking. Frankly, probably close to the 16 vehicles were parked on the south side, and then pedestrians would sometimes go to the signal, sometimes they would go to the derelict crossing block. But we did look to see if we could find a lot of crash data. Obviously, if it's a bad situation, you should see crash data. You should see the police there regularly. You should see people that are getting hit. When a pedestrian gets hit by a motorist, usually it doesn't just cause a they're getting ambulances involved. There's a lot of stuff. Being that it's a private parking lot, there was no crash diagrams that I could pull up. I did try and get crash diagram or data from the signal and found very few crashes in that location. There was just not a lot of crashes that occurred at Warrensville and the parking lot driveway. You would think if traffic is backing out on a regular weekday situation, we would. And during the weekend, we did in our study notice that there was rare occasions where traffic would back up from that stop sign back to Morrisville Center Road. We make recommendations to eliminate that stop sign, because quite frankly, we saw in the drone that even if there wasn't a pedestrian, vehicle was stopped. In some cases, just look, and it's not a very effective traffic, efficient traffic situation when you've got every car having to stop. It should be a yield. See pedestrians, you yield to traffic or to the pedestrian, and you go through the intersection. So by improving the pavement marking, improving the signage, we are protecting the pedestrian as best as we can, while also increasing the efficiency of traffic flowing into the site. So is it 100% effective? No, there's no possible way we can say that it's going to be. No, but we do know that pedestrians don't like getting hit by a motor. They hate it. Nobody likes getting hit by a car. There's usually a lose situation if you get hit by a car when you're a pedestrian. So pedestrians like to avoid walking across into the middle of the road. There's a rare people that decide that's worthwhile, yes, but most people are not walking out in front of traffic or into traffic when cars are going by. They want to avoid traffic. So I didn't see this type of a crash situation. I don't anticipate it going on, or else I wouldn't be recommending it. But I cannot say it's going to have no potential that we would ever see somebody getting a crash. We'll do some fast.
You did change in two areas. Right now, at Boston Market, there's no way, even parking in the Boston Market lot, to pull out into that restricted area, that rather thin area, or turn to pull in that area. By putting in the parking and having that open in that area, out into that drive, you gotta cut. Going in and out that were not there when you started, that's number one. Let me finish. You have opened it up because it's opened up. You've added a dimension that wasn't there when you were looking at the drone footage. Because Boston Market can't go through it, okay? Number two, you can have a crosswalk and have to yield to pedestrians, and Ohio state law requires. And I teach in a university, I've watched it. They might push buttons, we may have flashing lights, but you still on occasion take your life in your hands. It is interesting because at that stop sign, people do stop, and you're right. Even when there's not a pedestrian, they stop to look. Which means there's, in watching people, just observing, back in the area where the handicap parking is coming over to the open parking lot, where it is open. There is more of a likelihood of people dodging cars than there is where that crosswalk with the stop sign is. So I'm just saying, I know ODOT has it, I understand traffic studies, and I do understand, believe it or not, traffic engineering, okay? And I have deep respect for engineers because you work with specific things. My main concern comes from the other end, where people don't think, do, and don't act like. And now we've added that double dimension of cars pulling out to turn left or pulling in as soon as, well, they go down, but a little bit, but pulling out as well. And the reality of people not wanting to walk to your very nicely marked walk. And I'll be very honest, probably out of 10 people, you might get 4 people who will move that far down, which really isn't that far, to use the new crosswalk. The rest of them will just walk. That's where my concerns come in. And part of it is generated because you've added traffic coming in and going out in that rather restricted area where people were not pulling in and out before. Over time, might they settle down and realize, yeah, we should do this? I don't know. I certainly can't sit here and predict how many accidents we could have there. I'm just saying from a safety standpoint, just looking at it raw. And from human nature, I think we complicated the situation. That's all.
Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I do agree with, I have serious concerns about, pedestrian safety with this plan. The removal of Boston Market will encourage unsafe crossing of the roadway to directly to the whole. The existing building access physically funnels people to where that existing crosswalk, they physically can't walk through that building. Cars can drive through. That's the time that painted on, directing people to go out of the way to the crosswalk, and that's just not how human nature works. For example, that Guardian games last weekend, and I saw dozens of people running across Carnegie. 6 lanes of traffic, heavy traffic, and they just didn't want to go to the crosswalk. Folks are going to take the shortest path where they want to go. Pedestrians are safer, building these not accomplished, but I want to take a step. Well, I have planning for residents. What the end result is, will be 16 parking spaces. Let's compare that to what we have today. Building that could house a business. 14 parking spaces. To reiterate, this proposal would demolish the building and result in 2 parking spaces. University Heights is only 1.8 square miles. Be very deliberate with regarding our plans. 2 parking spaces. Thank you, residents and certified. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd first like to start by thanking the firm and all the guests who came to the various planning commission meetings I sat through them, so I got to see it as firsthand. The design did evolve into something very pretty, but it's a nice looking pocket park and green space. However, safety is of concern also, not just because the crosswalk would take people in a, just instead of straight across to the entrance of Whole Foods, but literally out of their way. Also turning right, coming back, people are going to want to continue shopping and they want to go in and ignore that as well. So that's concerning, but also the placement of this green space, this pocket park, right on Warrensville. That's not typically where these parks are located without physical barriers. And that is in and of itself a safety concern. And again, to Mr. King's point, we need as much revenue generating property as possible. This location is in our downtown prime space, downtown University Heights. By replacing this with a non-revenue generated park for a net of 2 parking spots is not in the interest, I don't think, of our residents. I did hear the votes. I tended to agree with Mrs. Urban and Mr. Reichert on their assessments. So thank you again for all your help in your work.
I just had a couple clarifying questions. So, you're representing a company that they own the parking lot, the entire parking lot.
Own the entire shop.
Their shopping center. So, to satisfy some safety concerns, if this would pass, would the client consider making every parking space diagonal, so it's all one way?
That came up during the planning commission discussion as well, and this goes to the fact that we're dealing with a shopping center that has evolved over time and frankly functions a bit differently than your typical inline shopping center, where at the rear of the building there would be loading areas. So you separate loading traffic from customer traffic. Here, that's not possible. Parking lot, at the rear of Cedar Center South, is also the loading area for each of those individual, stores, at the rear of Cedar Center South. So you've got to have sufficient clearance to imagine trucks pulling in and backing up, or pulling in, to be parallel with the shopping, and not the retailer. That kind of truck traffic move is necessary. As planning commission members noted, with some disappointment along the way. It's also the area where trash collection is done. So there's got to be room for trash collection and for the vehicles that pick up those dumpsters and empty them. Then there's also carts and all that. It's a long-winded way of saying that at least right now, the way the shopping center functions, it's really not feasible to change the configuration within the entire shopping. Is that something that we'll continue to evaluate as tenancy changes, as people's traffic patterns change, as frankly as garbage pickup and delivery services change over time? Absolutely, but it's not something that can be accomplished in one fell swoop as part of what we are proposing now. For better or worse.
So the dumpsters are by the brick wall on the side of where the house, is, right?
I believe they're in the middle of the parking.
That's just for the whole food.
Now, that's for all of the shops.
So when you're talking about large trucks that are delivering, whether they're delivering on off hours, is that correct or is that not correct?
It changed, it's different from retailer. Some of them are off hours, some of them are during the day. Food retailers have deliveries frequently. I would expect most of them. That's the other thing that I should mention, because there was talk about devoting different parking areas, changing the parking lot configuration to allow for different parking configurations, to allow for relocation of dumpsters and as we discussed in front of the planning commission, it is not uncommon for retailers to shopping centers. There are restrictions in the leases, restrictions on the land regarding what they can do in terms of making changes to the parking area to disrupt business. So in terms of how many parking spaces are available, how long parking spaces are interrupted, what can be part of the parking area and what is not allowed to be part of the parking area. It's on a lease by lease basis. Those can be different. And that makes making wholesale changes to the parking area a real challenge.
And the next question I had was, in terms of that Boston market study, what type of efforts have been made over the years to get tenant in there, redevelop that piece? You know, I think like Mr. King and Ms. Staff said, with very few income generating businesses here, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Rick Zack with the property ownership specifics. I do wanna take a little bit of issue with the notion that the difference here is two spaces. And I know it may seem like that on paper, but I'm gonna go back to where I started. It's the impetus for the application and the request here. Whole Foods, we view Whole Foods as a critical tenant for the shopping center. They're maybe the 800-pound gorilla for the vitality of the shopping center. They're the largest tenant. They are the biggest draw as a tenant. We view them as being of critical importance. And without exposing business issues that would be inappropriate to discuss in a public meeting, they have made clear to ownership that providing additional or front door parking for their store is of critical importance. It is literally the difference maker on whether they will extend the term of their. And so it's not simply 2 more parking spaces that are there now. It is helping to ensure that they will remain a tenant at the shopping center. At the same time, I understand the comments about the location of the pocket park. Frankly, I might take some issue in terms of its placement. It's at a place that's most accessible to whether it's pedestrians along Lawrenceville Center Road, or customers at Whole Foods, or customers elsewhere in the shopping center who may want to sit there and enjoy the meal or take a break or whichever. There is a fence separating it from the street, so there is some barrier between the street, the sidewalk, I should say, and that pocket area. Because we do recognize that it's close to traffic and we want to create some separation. And we really do feel like we put a lot of effort into making that the best it could be in terms of what it's up. I don't want to pretend this isn't a place where people are going to come and play baseball. But it is a place that I lived in University Heights for 16 years. I now live in Orange near the Whole Foods that's there. And if those of you who are familiar with the Whole Foods there, may be familiar with the outdoor seating area that's adjacent to the Whole Foods there. It's literally adjacent to the building in their parking area on the south side of the building. This can function much like that, but for other tenants and for residents as well. I don't want to overstate it, but I also don't want to understate it. We started off because I recognize that you do, that you have limited commercial space in the city, and it's important to maximize that. Same thing is true for the property. We have limited commercial space. We want to maximize what we can do with it, but we're also realists. We're practical about what can be made of that very old, outmoded restaurant space, and at what cost to the rest of the shopping center. And like most things in life, there's not a perfect answer. So this is the best that we can come up with, satisfy need and of most people, while also addressing safety concerns that have been addressed. So the concerns to make this an amenity, not simply a parking area. And I think we've done everything we could to address all. I'm going to let Rick Zach talk a little bit about leasing that.
Hi, my name is Rick Zach. I'm with First National, with the ownership of the shopping center. I think the question was related to leasing efforts. So the issue, the struggle we've had since Boston Market, it was actually before Boston Market vacated, was a few things. One is the building is just functionally obsolete, right? From an infrastructure standpoint, would be significant upgrades that we would need to do to perform for any new tenant that would want to occupy the space. In addition, it's in a very tight footprint. So the idea of doing a drive-through, which most QSR, quick service restaurants and fast casual and things like that require, right? So that took a lot off the table. And we did talk to some, local businesses, not just national retail businesses, but we talked to local businesses, see what would work. But when we talk about the upgrades to the building as it relates to the rents we would, right, to make it feasible from an investment standpoint, we just couldn't make it work. So when this opportunity with Whole Foods was discussed, we said, well, let's look at this. And I think really wanting to keep them in the shopping center On the corner of, Cedar Road and Warrensville. Important for us, it's important, I mean, I live locally, it's important to me, the shop is one. And certainly, important to our investors, because we think it's just, Amazon credit is a good tenant to have, so, that's why we went down this path. It's so, it wasn't like this was the initial discussion, we abandoned it. We were looking at that well before this, this discussion happened, but it was we were talking for a while.
Thank you. Marshall, do you have a question?
I did, so I'm understanding you to say that it's almost coming as if this doesn't happen, Whole Foods plans on leaving. What is Boston Market never told? They've been there all this time. Have they always been concerned about needing more parking? And saying that they're gonna leave, if they don't get more parking?
Here, I may call on Rick, so I'll read, but there's someone. I want to be clear, I'm not here as Whole Foods representative. I'm here on behalf of them. And again, what I can comfortably share with you is that it is a condition of their willingness to extend their lease, that additional parking at this location be provided. I don't want to tell you that they will definitely leave if they don't get that additional parking, but I certainly can't assure you that they will not if they don't. I can tell you, I think everybody here knows that that a tenant like Whole Foods is a very valuable tenant to any community. You have neighbors who would like to have Whole Foods in their community and would do all sorts of things to attract Whole Foods. And no reason to think that Whole Foods, in determining whether to extend its lease, whether to remain in University Heights at Cedar Center South, would forego exploring those options. If you could not provide them with the additional help that they're seeking. Now, in terms of when this became of importance to Whole Foods, again, I don't represent Whole Foods, so I can't tell you the answer to that. What I can tell you is that this became of critical importance to them with respect to their remaining as it became clear that after the Whole Foods space became vacant, either at the Boston market space, either just as it was becoming vacant. Again, they see what we see, that there is outside their front door. Let's be blunt about it. Boston Market, his favorite restaurant when they were growing up, when it was Boston Chicken. In its last few years was not an attraction to the area. That was, and that has been Whole Foods front door for anybody coming from the south to the shopping center. So I think they probably saw that there was an opportunity here to solve their problem with parking and at the same time to make for a more attractive entrance to their store, which matters.
Thank you. Ms. Wagner, did you have something to say?
Yeah. I've been familiar with that shopping center for a lot of years. When it was the Cedar Center and the sidewalk sales back in the 60s. And what we have there today is new equipment. I think there's definitely the ownership of the whole shopping center has done a number of things to enhance it. I recognize business-wise the situation that we are following. We have a major tenant, we have to deal with it. I'm not necessarily against the parking, I'm just, I have issues. I'm not against the parking, I have issues with the opening into that very restricted area. And with the movement of that entranceway down. I think in terms of safety, you decrease the safety in that area. Because people will be people, that's where I come from. I'm not against your need for more parking. I fully accept that's a site, which is part of the problem, you're not getting much parking out of it. But I think the resolution isn't necessarily a positive resolution for that area in putting that parking in the way you're. On a personal preference, if it was blocked off, then yes, people still would go over and cross there. But we wouldn't have the additional issues of cars turning left and cars turning left to come in and cars turning right to go out. That adds to the complexity of what they do. And I can appreciate your traffic engineer, I think his design follows all that good stuff. City planners run into this all. You know, what we think people will do on the ground, they don't do. And when we plan and put things down in a manner that fits our vision and not theirs, the results can be problematic. And they actually can be detrimental. I understand the need for like this Whole Foods sells prepared foods. And I know a lot of people run through there to get lunch. And having that additional space for them to sit and eat their lunch, I think is the benefit to Whole Foods and a benefit. What you get. As a way for people to be able to do it. I don't, you can reconfigure it, but that's part of the issue. That's part of the issue for me, and you haven't jumped that road for me. I'm not negative, I fully understand where you're at.
I appreciate the comment, I think we all, again, we started with a plan. We took to heart, the input that the plan commission gave us. And went through a series of changes to address all the concerns we're still talking about here. We did that.
First meeting of planning where it was given back to you with those comments. Well, I saw improvements in this plan, the major issues are still there.
I will say what I think we ended up saying in the plan, that we really genuinely do believe that we have exhausted our efforts to come up with the very best plan that we can to address all of the concerns that we're talking about here. The economic concerns, the safety concerns, the concerns about how the park functions. We really did take to heart all of the comments that were made, and you know, frankly, we did what I think most of us try and do in situations where that require expertise to puzzle them out. We went to the very best experts we could find from both civil engineering, putting the plan on paper, and traffic engineering to evaluate what we had and how we could improve it. And then at that point, frankly, the decision is to rely on the professionals and the opinions and the input that they give you or not. And we rely. We've fortunately done that with input from the plan along the way. We've taken anything that the traffic word. I don't think so, but at the same time, we really do feel that we've gotten to the very best plan that we could.
Thank you. So I just have one more before Mr. Henry, a comment, a question, just some thoughts. So, you know, we have hopefully 200 apartments that come across the street, and I know that Whole Foods is really attractive to that. Has the administration ever been told before this meeting that Whole Foods is thinking about leaving if they don't get their 16 parking spots? Or is this the first time that?
We have talked, again, I don't wanna, I appreciate the comment about 16 parking spots. It's frankly, we look at it as I keep using the same expression, front door. We made clear during our appearances for the planning commission that was in large part the interest, but that this is something that Whole Foods has requested of us, made it of extending its tenant. We've been very, again, as clear as we could. Guilty. But yeah, we have made that clear all along the way that is the support. Yeah, I'm going to keep saying it because it really is true. I represent almost exclusively developers, and it is a very rare instance when a developer is proposing to demolish a structure that has provided income to not replace it with something that will generate additional income. Obviously, our hope is that Whole Foods will remain tenant, that will secure income to the landlord and tenant of the city, and that over time, the improvements that we are making will make this more attractive so that they renew their lease now and renew it in the future, and their future rent increases and more business at Whole Foods and the rest of the shopping center benefits from that all along. To attract more tenants, better tenants, more income to the city. We view ourselves as being in lockstep with the city on that ultimate goal. This is what we view as a necessary step to achieve that.
Thank you. One of the things that always surprised me with this Whole Foods location was outdoor seating. And the other Whole Foods I've gone to, that seems to be a feature. Grab lunch or dinner, take a place to seat outside. And this really addresses that characteristic I thought was lacking the entire time it's there. Looking at the configuration, Mrs. Sachs had a concern about the area of one center was obviously fencing that's there. So someone wouldn't necessarily have to run through the fence to get to the one center. But also as traffic comes in and out, that those cars are turning prior to the main sidewalk. It's an awkward design. We look at the parking lot, it's really it's not at the front door, it's really off. And the other, like I said, the other Whole Foods I have, they do have that front door parking. I can see why they would want that land to develop. And Mr. King has comment, people will cross where they want to cross. Whether there's a barrier or not, whether it's 6 lanes of traffic at Carnegie, 6:30 prior to Guardians. If they want to get across the street, they're going to do it at their own peril. I appreciate the comments Ms. Weiser had about safety. I think there's paramount. But I understand that the layout and design that did come through planning commission after several iterations. This seems to be more in line with other Whole Food locations that I personally consider for the characteristics that have.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. So based on all of the comments, I will make a motion to the recommendation. And entertain a second on comments. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, that's right.
So I delivered all my remarks to the planning commission meeting. Really gone through the detail. But I do want to, thank the applicant for delivering those remarks that were mentioned in planning commission truthfully. I don't think you really missed anything. Everything that we discussed was brought up in this meeting. The planning commission vote was 3-2. And I was one of the affirmative votes. I wanted to advance it to this point. So we can have additional feedback from my colleagues here. So I'm glad hearing that today. I am sad that we're losing a business. At the same time, I don't want to see a vacant business for the next 10 years either, right? And I have concerns that if we do nothing, it's gonna be vacant for some time. See if they'll thrive. I feel some type of food service venue could thrive here. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much tenant improvements we would require at this point. I've not been inside that building for quite some time. But I understand where you're coming from. I heard you made a compelling argument. And all I've asked of the planning commission is that we did something. We did something to boost this business. And I think the pop-up park is nice. I think it delivers some benefit to the customer, to our residents, of being able to have some outdoor seating. While concealing the parking right behind. Sticking point we had to, we don't want to see all the cars. So, well, it's not a great plan. It's a parking lot. At the end of the day, this is a parking. I do feel we've taken it as far as we can really go to tinker with this. I mean, at the very end of the planning commission meeting, it was just gave a plan of painting a couple lines. I thought it's time for those just sign up. So, I don't like it. Don't know how much more you can really do, put in the side. I do want to stress that if there is some safety concern down the road, that we can enforce that the applicant make improvements to the site so that lessen any risk or if there is, let me rephrase that. If there is a concern down the road that develops because of this change in design, I hope we can return to the applicant to remedy that, come up with a solution to fix whatever issue is at hand, how we would enforce that. I feel that through our ordinance, it's got to be something that's enforced.
We have a custom of modifying this when it comes up. And I don't think it's going to go. We've seen it done. I would note, and I'm looking at the motions as written out that came up. I don't think this is transparent quite correct. Mr. Rock will recall, and I think he can describe that when we passed to the planning commission, we added a couple of conditions, including an arrow with that points to the right would be painted on the pavement on the northward part of the parking lot. So farthest, the far, yes, thank you, the farthest you plan to describe that. So it's northbound enter the seat, and it would paint a right turn to encourage not turn left. And then we would also, for Mr. Rock's suggestion, and then I added this to the motion, that we add some lighting to the park. We ended up being non-specific.
but maybe.
Suitable lighting.
Suitable lighting.
Is how it ended up being. I think it says lighting in trees, that's not quite it, but it was suitable lighting. We'd started to go down the road of something a little more specific about string light, but further along, we decided that we didn't need to be that specific. But we should have suitable lighting in the pub. And I would encourage that be part of the motion here. Now, whether we want to include something regarding a review a year out, or if within the next year, traffic engineer, or excuse me, rather our city engineer who has a traffic engineer on staff, or if the police department has an issue that's identified that we would reserve to call back the applicant. Add safety devices, traffic calming devices, something that may be, that's not without precedent. That's been done before as well. It was done with McDonald's. I don't think anything was ultimately added, but we reserved the right to do. I don't know that that's necessary here. I think Mr. Rock pointed out, this is well, several points. And I would just simply add, you know, I'm not in love with this plan, but I understand that what we're trying to balance here, and Whole Foods is a valuable business here in the community. It's the top 4, top 5 business employer. John Carroll, Belfair, school district, Whole Foods, Target. So, you know, there is something to be said for getting rid of a building that isn't working, that isn't occupied, and solidifying a relationship with a business that's valuable to you. I would love to see another storefront somewhere on this property to make up for the one that we're losing. I don't want to lose a second storefront.
The answer, Mr. Ross, I think if there are documented issues, we could have communication with the property owner. If that's not, it would be something that would.
Just to be clear, while we've talked a lot about how we have designed this to address safety concerns. We're living in the real world. It does not benefit either us or any of our tenants. If despite our best efforts, there is a systemic problem with this design. We will revisit it whether the city asks us to or not. We're not gonna, if we have unintentionally created a hazard, despite our best efforts, we're gonna address that hazard. Whether it requires us to come back to you to make a change in the plan or not, we'll see. But we're not gonna leave something in place that isn't working. And frankly, while I keep emphasizing the importance of Whole Foods works in the real world. It's not going to insist on something that serve its customers that instead has created as. So I don't want to suggest that once we're done, we're out of here. The landlord here, as I said earlier, the landlord not just for this little area, the entire area. We're in the city. Our goal is to create a good neighborhood and make sure that what we're putting in front of them that we believe will works. If it doesn't, we're gonna be addressing it.
Ways with that in mind, you want to clarify the motion? I'll read it. Motion to approve recommendation to planning commission regarding the application for Burns Ocker Burger LLC, for CS LLC, CS Center TIC 1 LLC, building located at 2184 Warrensville Center Road, VA Boston Market, a surface parking addition on the addition of a right turn arrow depicted on the pavement in the north area of the farthest east
parking lane. And the addition of suitable lighting to the parking.
Yes, I'll make that, adjustment, and Mr. Rapp, will you also?
I will.
Are there any other comments? Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King,
Nay.
Mrs. Sacks,
Nay.
Mr. Cooney,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Nay. Motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under agenda letter B, motion to approve recommendation from planning commission regarding the application from Reese Homes, architect for Hazen DeVore to approve site plan as demolished from house in 2325 North Road, or just construct a new home on the same lot. Just everybody, there are three homes.
So on this particular property, we have already received the approval of planning commission. We have to get an approval from the architectural review board and handful of changes that were requested last Thursday. Both will be submitted to them. Proceed to building permits for the building. And the existing property is really not in very good condition. It's a vacant property. Mr. Kazin has owned the property, I believe, for 7 years. I'm sure.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Mr. Kazin has owned the property, I think, for a handful of years, because his intention to build a new on property. But, previously, before it was vacant.
Thank you. Are there any comments?
Planning commission meeting, this property and the next two, just for stages, they're very large sites, but the properties are deep. The divisioning between streets and next to their own cul-de-sac, but in a longer site. The footprint of the structure is about the same size as the building coming down. The sod on the sides, roughly about where the existing home was positioned, so that there is no encroachment onto the right side, with no variance is required. Lovely home, and look forward to seeing it go.
Thank you. Any other comments, Ms. Weiser?
Were there any variances?
Notice.
Okay, thank you.
I will make a motion to approve this recommendation of 2325 Wilson Road.
Yeah, I'm sorry to step up, but all these upcoming recommendations, these were all depending upon the development plan and that bond characteristics, so. Ask that part also be.
Yes. Thank you.
Beautiful home, but at the meeting, I heard the residents' concerns. Are there steps being taken to address those significant concerns?
There are, and I just want to be more specific.
Thank you.
Those came from the Witten Road project.
Yes.
We didn't have,
Oh, wonderful.
that's okay. Those will be at the next two, so you don't need to address it now.
Mhm.
I just correct the record. Remake the motion. To approve recommendation plan commission regarding the application for Reese Homes, architect for war to approve site plan and demolish current house at 25 North Road. Under to construct a new home on the same lot, posting the bond and bring it to the.
One quick note, if you look at the memoirs about it, everybody starts in the motion.
Okay, thank you. Thomas, please follow.
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks,
Aye.
Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall. Ms. Wiseman.
Okay, thank you. Letter C, motion to approve recommendation from planning commission regarding the application of this home. Architectural waste to approve site plan and demolish current house at 2620 Lindenwood Road in order to construct a new home on the same land. Contingencies of posting of on development.
Once again, in this situation, the current, home of 2620 is vacant, very poor condition. This will be the second home we will start on this street. We had completed another one, back in March of this year. That being said, I know that we received the law by the architectural review board. They've given their full approval on this.
I don't remember if it was this home or the next one, there was some concern about some old trees on the property that are over the neighboring property, and we're gonna get those taken down.
Yeah, so essentially what we're doing, I actually met with the tree company today on site to have a look at all of those trees. And when we propose, pose a danger, we will be removed. Anything that's on a neighboring property line, we will get consent from a neighbor, but if it's on our property, the intention is to.
With the, having two projects on the same very small congested cul-de-sac. I know that residents approached you, how are you going to?
Yeah, so the resident, they really approached us on, it was basically free stuff that one top of the park. Everybody else was concerned about, working hours and so forth. The third concern was the safety of the children, because there's a lot of children in the neighborhood that do pick up the bus at that location. So I would just probably, address the fact with the children. Number one is that, as I mentioned, Greece Homes for always safety top of mind. And that's not just for us, but that's internal, that's external as well. So we try to educate all of our employees and contractors on proper safety methods, and that's not just on the job site itself. The other question I think that came up with the concern that was the parking on the one side of the street, which is actually the opposite side of the street where these two homes were built. And I will tell you, it was not necessarily, I was on the street today, it was really not clearly defined. That being said, we're going to put out a memo to all of our contractors on which side of the street to park when street parking is required. We ultimately want to keep them on the property as much as possible. During delivery, sometimes it's a little difficult. We have some heavier materials, granite countertops, things like that. So they may have to block an apron at our home for a very short period of time, but we're going to definitely do that with enforcement. And then of course, with the working hours, we'll work during prescribed working hours. I think this will be we've completed 3 projects already within the city. Next 3 that are coming up. Trying to keep everything clean, keeping job sites clean, making sure that everything is safe for the neighbors.
Thank you.
I'd like to go back to what you said, it's unclear what side of the street or
I was there today, and I think one gentleman expressed concern about having a sign on the side of the street. There is one no parking sign at the end of the cul-de-sac. Probably if you're looking at the cul-de-sac, it's probably about 7 and 5. Okay, when you get down that street. And there is a fire hydrant. That fire hydrant is kind of down more on the cul-de-sac side. It's really not on that side of the street. My understanding, when they established this last meeting, is that the outward side of the street, not the inward side towards the cul-de-sac, or going out, that is the purpose. That was my understanding of it.
their signage?
Any other questions? We will make a motion to approve recommendation from planning commission regarding the application from Greece Homes Architectural Waste to approve site plan in the house, current house of 2620 Whitman Road, and to construct a new home on the same land with the conditions in the environment. Okay.
Mr. King,
Um,
Mr. Sacks, Mr. Cooney,
Aye.
Mr. Wise, Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall, Ms. Weiser.
Thank you. Agenda item B, motion to approve recommendation from planning commission application for the Greece Homes Architect for Osrail and Alpha Berlin to approve site plan and demolish current house at 2644 Whitten Road in order to construct a new home on the same lot.
Once again, this is a vacant home situation. It's home actually has some boarded up windows that have recently, the tenants moved out, the garage door was somewhat damaged. they boarded it up. The house is in extremely poor condition.
Answer question?
I just have a question. All of these fit the footprint?
believe this one was slightly larger.
This is an extremely large home site, so I think we were about 15% covered on this, don't have to. Me, but from a home site perspective, there were no variances.
Right.
No, okay.
It was a deep lot.
It was a very.
Being on a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
It's still.
I know the lots are weird signs because they're sort of, they widen up in front of the street.
I think was this the one that had a pinch point, corner of the house because of the angle of the property line.
It did have a little bit of a pinch point on there, but that being said, there was
It was
still.
still 6 feet. That was property.
Sideways.
Okay, so I will also make a motion to approve the recommendation from planning commission, application from Bridgestone Architect for Adriel and Margot Levin to approve site plan in the Mount Current House at 2644 Winton Road in order to construct a new home on the same lot, contingent on, bond and development. Council Paulo, Mr. King,
Aye.
Mr. Pat, aye, Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mr. White,
aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall,
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for helping your clients on it. This is built a home for the bigger.
Okay, agenda letter E, ordinance 2024-69, authorizing the mayor to enter into a first amendment to the city's engineering services agreement of Walton Hampshire Incorporated that consents to the assignment of that agreement to Manic and Smith Group Incorporated. Put it on second reading. Mayor, do you want to-
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any changes here. The merger went through. So it's not really a matter of if, but it's a matter of simply proceeding with the assignment, so that we can continue our relationship, with the same folks that we've been working with, since they came to the city in February of the year. So, I'm not sure if Brenda got that set up.
Any comments or questions? Is there a motion?
Move to approve authorizing the mayor to enter into the city's engineering services agreement with Wallace and Hampshire Inc. that consents to the assignment of that agreement to the Smith Group. Inc.
Okay, second by Ms. Beck. Ms. Thomas? Ms. Thomas, please call the roll. I'm sorry, Mr.
Do we need to pass this? I know this comes out of reading, but do we need to pass this on urgency for 30 days? For cooking back in the.
I don't know the usual payment schedule, I think that she.
Brenda, do you happen to know when the next bill generally would be coming out? And then we would usually pay it, 30 days or so. After that, right, Mr. Gammon?
That's correct. I would personally recommend you pay something on meetings.
Well, then we don't have to wait.
I'll amend my motion to emergency.
Okay, and actually, we would need to amend the legislation.
Why are you with this one?
I do.
I didn't second that, but I would second the motion to amend it.
The sexy side. And then,
Stop the motion.
Mr. Pat, aye. Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mr. White.
aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Aye.
And then we make a motion on the main.
Yes.
So this will be, motion on emergency passport event, 224-16. There's a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. King,
Um,
Mr. Sacks. Aye. Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Thank you. Agenda letter F, resolution 2024-71, accepting the amounts and rates determined by the budget commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal office. Mr. Kennedy?
Thank you. This is the item that I referred to in my report. It's an annual statutory report in the city. And this will, set the tax rates be imposed for next year based on the tax budget that the council approved and, the county accepted after the review. We sent that in July. So this is an annual occurrence. There's no change to the millage in total. So there should not be, there's no impact with this, the estimated tax rates based on for next year.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Kennedy? There are no pass the resolution 2024-71.
So moved, Vice Mayor.
There's a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mr. Sacks. Aye. Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Letter B, ordinance 2024-74, amending ordinances 2024-63, 2024-47, 2024-44, and 2024-03. Authorizing call appropriation adjustments, permanent appropriations for current and other expenditures of the city of University of Heights, Ohio, for the period commencing January 1st, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This is to appropriate the $500,000 in ARPA funding that we received from Cuyahoga County. That is now sitting in our general fund. The original budget did not contemplate this. So approval tonight will allow for the appropriation, which will in turn let us conduct the payment issues that we're required to satisfy on closing. I believe near the closing is currently set for Thursday.
Yeah, so we were gonna wire it. Probably that was.
So I just need to get the appropriations amended to allow for that.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Are there any questions? There are motions to suspend the rules? Second. Moved by Ms. Marshall, second by Ms. Wagner. Mrs. Thomas, please call the roll.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mr. Sacks. Aye. Mr. Cooney. Ms. White.
Aye.
Mr. Rock. Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Nominating motion ordinance 2024-74. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Call the emergency.
On emergency.
Second.
Second on emergency.
Mrs. Thomas, please call the roll.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mr. Sacks. Aye. Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Thank you. I will make a motion to table agenda letter H and send it to the building committee that was discussed in the building committee before council. Is there a second?
I will second. There's additional things that we're working on, with this, because there'll be a companion piece that will come out with it.
Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mr. Sacks. Aye. Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall. Ms. Wiseman.
And on letter I, there is an amendment.
The code section to add the sentence. E7. Stating dumpsters will be empty when full.
I read ordinance 2024-73, enacting section 1280.13 of the codified ordinances regulating the use of dumpsters in one family and two family residential districts and declaring an emergency. Would first be voting on the amendment and then. I'm gonna be like,
Just wanted to point out, I mean, maybe anything, but we do need a motion, I even voted with, well, are we going to discuss it?
I want to do this up first.
Oh, okay.
Just to clarify, do an amendment first, and
Yeah, I
then
make the motion.
Yes, we will. Do we want to amend it before discussing? Or discuss that, then amend it? Which way do you want to go? What?
let's discuss it first. Okay.
This came through the building department. What we discovered is, we have a number of dumpsters that sometimes indicate that houses are being flipped. Where the point of sale and, housing, permits, required permits have not been pulled. What this does is it will charge a very minimal charge for any type of dumpster that would be used here in the city. It's $25. And what it basically does is, set where the dumpster can be set on the site, so that we don't have any out in the street, they have to be on the physical site. It also does allow a follow-up to determine and to identify where we do need permits. Not all dumpsters are for permits. Many times people are just cleaning out, mom stuff or old stuff, and they get one of the smaller dumpsters to handle that, because the material is far beyond the load limit of our stuff or pickup. So what this does is it doesn't penalize anybody. It just gives the city another tool to use to identify where we've got missing some courts of sale and permits. In discussion, we brought up the fact that sometimes we see dumpsters that are overfilled because people want to add and add. And that is why we've requested the amendment to it to require it to be emptied when full. To help prevent sometimes we feel a little carried away, especially for rehabs of houses. Sometimes rather than setting up to get two dumpsters, whoever's doing the rehab will put the limits on it. And this way we can also control that in terms of spillage and other items that might occur from that. So the committee as a whole voted to approve this and refer to council. Our hopes that the full council will approve this on emergency, so we can get this into the code.
Thank you, Violet. Are there any questions? If the first we are going to make the motion to amend,
To add, section 7 dumpster shall be empty.
Need some.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Mr. Rock. Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Will move.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Is there a motion on the main ordinance 2024-73?
On emergency. So moved.
Second.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks.
Aye.
Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Mrs. Wise.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall. Ms. Wiseman.
Aye.
What is it? Is there a need for an executive session?
We have no need for one today. Thank you.
Great, we are now, up to reports of standing committees. Building.
Well, obviously, we have a couple of things. one now is taken care of. We're continuing to discuss the revision of the code. Our codes right now do not match the Ohio Revised Code on vicious dog. So we need to make the corrections to that, so they do conform. There's also an additional change we may make on the existing right for unsafe dogs, which is a separate part we're adding to the code to handle dog, like dog on dog attacks. In the current code, in the Ohio Revised Code, it does not deal with dogs that attack other dogs. In the, and we want to get it added in. We did have an incident that did occur back in May where a dog was severely injured in an attack. Okay. We will have some items coming up in terms of, we're looking at issues where we can do revocation of rental permits for first single and two-family homes. We currently have a list of things we can revoke permits for apartments. We did not have that same listing going in the rental codes for single and two-family houses. So that will be brought up. We have one carryover item from this month's agenda to talk about the number of units in apartments that have to be physically inspected each year. It's right now at 100%. We're going to discuss whether we can bring that down somewhat to look at price. And Markel is going to be getting us data on that, which we greatly appreciate. And we also hopefully can get to it next month's meeting. Beginning to look at some issues regarding railings on second floor porches or closing of doors if there's no railing, that would be there because the code right now just requires a railing. So we've been approached. There were some things that came out of ARB, some ideas from Architectural Review Board that we'll discuss in relation to that. The building and housing meeting traditionally is just prior to the council meeting at the second meeting of the month. And you are more than welcome to join us in person or on Zoom. Thank you.
Community outreach, Mr. King.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We need to schedule a community outreach committee meeting to to confirm appointments to the Technology Advisory Committee. I had a session with Mr. Cooney earlier. There is a permanent recreation committee meeting on October 8th. Everyone who's on the community outreach committee decided that they were graciously offering to have that meeting or to have that meeting after work. So I believe the meeting is 6 o'clock.
In my suggestion would be community outreach at 6. I'll bring it to 6:30.
I mean, if people are amenable, I can send out an email after this.
What times are you proposing?
Currently, the recreation meeting was at 6 p.m. And Mr. King, the time that he's looking for will be approximately 3 minutes. So my suggestion.
You haven't yet.
That'll be, you can send out a rule, see what. So since the community members are essentially, there's a lot of overlap there, then they make sense for people's schedules to have both of us.
I know, but I'm saying, I mean, you're making a statement that we're gonna do a half hour and then go to recreation. And I'm saying there might be more material than we haven't had. When was the last time we had a community help?
I always say 6 o'clock and then we have information for Mr. King.
Yeah, okay.
So reporting.
I'm sorry, what's the date of the next?
October
Thank you. We'll decide.
Finance, we had a finance, I'm sorry, economic development, Mr. Rowdy.
Yeah, well, we will need to have a meeting to go over next steps on zoning. I want to focus our first, smaller group meeting on the, one family versus two family dwelling in the residential district. Maybe you wanted to do two. Over finance, I just want to discuss collectively pros and cons, so to make sure we're all on the same page for, further steps. So I'll send a doodle poll, or I'll probably send out a doodle poll for due dates.
Mr. Rowdy, anticipate the starting to ramp up now.
Yeah.
So everybody.
Looks like.
Finance, we did have a finance committee meeting last week. We reviewed our quarterly financials as well as a potential ordinance, increasing the mayor and speech director salary. That is under review right now for possible changes and will in the next 2 or 3 meetings, probably come to pass. The next finance meeting will be hopefully with our draft budget, with our directors and recreation.
The next recreation committee meetings, October 8th. Right now it's scheduled for 6 p.m. That may change based at, community outreach, but for discussion. There is some overlap between the committees. The agenda, for some topics that, committee members and other council members have asked to put out, so. A number of things which hopefully lead to some input for consideration for the 2025 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. And will the poll doctors be there also?
I have requested it.
Safety.
So the October 7th, meeting is not gonna be scheduled, it's going to be, held on October 15th. October 14th, that's on that following Monday. And Kelly did send out a poll, so far 3 people have responded. So everybody gets a chance to check their email and respond and say if you're available for it.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Service and utilities.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to once again extend an opportunity for residents who are interested in providing input on LED street lighting to contact me. And then I would like to thank everyone who responded to the extended doodle through December 31st. Looks like the next 2 service and utility committee meetings, with Kelly, are Wednesday, November 20th at 6 p.m. and Thursday, December 12th at 6 p.m. I just want to say council is very much looking forward to working together with mayor and administration on these important issues. And I'm glad the mayor said he's available on these days. And since I've always met the criteria well in advance of each meeting, there's no reason to think this would be done otherwise. And I very much look forward to working together.
Thank you. And then committee of the whole, there is a committee of the whole meeting, this Thursday, September 19th. There are a few items of discussion. We'll be rehashing, the response to the storm and discussing emergency management plan. In a global sense, we're discussing the trees, on the tree one. This will be a start of a discussion that will also kind of lead into building and housing. And we'll also be discussing the Renford Way project. Reports of special committees. We do have a special council meeting also on September 19th to discuss the specialty architect and the owner's rep for the municipal facilities. And I will also Yes, the mayor, I think the sustainability committee should become a proper committee with city council representatives and some legislation is coming out of that group. So I would highly consider, I would ask you to highly consider that to be done. There any other?
Yeah. So you did mention the specialty architect and owner rep, we will have a meeting of the RFQ select committee on Wednesday, September 17th, it's 6 o'clock, where we will discuss those two tomorrow. Okay, you're right, it is. It is tomorrow. It is tomorrow. September 17th, agenda item, okay, sorry. Where we will discuss the specialty architect and owners rep. We've received proposals from specialty architects to do a very small scope of program verification. So when we review the facilities past, we will give a program requirements. Some specialty architect will fine tune that, as well as provide master planning of the site. And some we'll go over next steps on potential project delivery. So whether this be single prime contractor, prime construction manager at risk, that sort of thing. Went through at the last meeting various options. We're sort of leaning on a construction manager at risk being the most likely delivery method for this type of project. But anyways, we are meeting tomorrow for approval on Thursday at this.
Thank you. Is there?
Yes, just briefly, I know we've discussed offline scheduling the next council meeting at a later time to allow those of us to participate in the commemoration events for October 7th, but we looking at 7:30. I'm not sure if we settle on time. Thought we might want to reference that here publicly. We can October 7th to hold a council meeting, but hold it later in the evening.
That's what we're doing. Yes.
So. we'll make a motion right, to change the October 7th city council meeting to 7:30 p.m. City council meeting.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Zach. Aye. Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Ms. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
And students to approve that.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Zach. Aye. Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Mr. Rock. Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
There are no movement.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mr. Zach. Aye. Mr. Cooney.
Aye.
Ms. White. Ms. Rock.
Aye.
Ms. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Wiseman.
Thank you.